welcome to the Illuminati broadcast. I'm your host, David Moore. Yes, what's up? Got some Yu-Gi-Oh playing in the background. Got a little chart here, got a little chart there. Let's get into it. So first off, with the chart back there, I've devised it so it's like shogi, and there's like 9 dots, 9 across, 9 whatever, vertical, diagonal. But there's about, I think, what's 9 times 9? I don't know, 80 something spaces. But if you take out 9 of them, you get 72. So then you got the 72 Ars Goetia right there. And in the middle, right there, usually that's the border in shogi. So you'll have your pieces up here and down here, and this will be the center that divides you, and usually that's called like the river. In the Ars Goetia, we have the passing of the river, and it says that it comes from the west to the east. This is south, this is west, this is east, and this is north. So in real life, that way is south, yes, so it matches that. So south is this way, west is that way, east is towards you, and the north is that way. So I live in Los Angeles. So yeah, in that direction in the north, there's the Los Angeles mountains. So that would kind of be that little border right there. So let's see, it would be right here, the mountains. And then we would be like right here, and then right here would be like Lancaster, Santa Clarita, and then Victorville. So you get the whole map. But I'm using basically Jewish astrology, and I'm using the Ars Goetia, and I've got some pretty cool discoveries that I wanted to share. So in the Catholic Bible, there's, I think, 40 something Old Testament books, and then in the New Testament there's like 27 or something like that. But if you combine it, it's 72. So there's enough. There's actually I think 72 or 73 books. So that lets you know that for each chapter there's a spirit that's associated with it. And when you go through here, you're going to want to count from 2s. So this would be the north one, so you would count down this one. So it'd be 2, 4, 6, 8, and then once you get to the 8, it's 8 and 10, and then you got 12, 14, 16, 18, and then so on and so on to like 36, and then to like 50, and then back to 72. So it's like a complete calendar. Also, I would say we're right here. That's Aquarius right there, right next to Capricorn. So when you count, you would count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and it'll go all the way up to the 31st. And then, so you have the complete calendar. It's all right there. I also worked on this new like sundial for it as well, so we can look at it. Yeah, you have the sundial right there. It tells you like the times and the days, whatever. Like what time the sun rises and what time it sets, and then what time is midnight, etc. So we're learning a lot about like new things about the Ars Goetia. So in the Ars Goetia, there's the sigils, and that's why it has the 2, because usually they're both sides of a coin. But once they hit the corners, that's about 4 books. So today would be the 3rd. So we have February, which is Aquarius, and then you have 1, 2, 3. And if you notice, it's in the corner, the 3rd one. So that means there's 4 numbers associated with it, the 2 and 4. And then if you look at the spirits of that day that fall in that domain, they would be Zagan, Volok, Andras, and Juarez, and they're all on the same page. So that lets you know that there's like something that makes sense there. Like that's when you're deciphering the Ars Goetia, you're going to come to conclusions. You're going to be like, well, I think this should be here, that should be there. And eventually it starts speaking to you, and it starts giving you answers. And then you put those answers together, and you're like, wow, like I'm figuring this out with the help of these spirits. Because, you're painting them out, you're using the colors, you're using like the directions, you're using this as a compass. I guess, let's see, I'll bring out the book that I've been working on, my little book of shadows, and I'll just show you a little bit more on how that's coming out. Yeah, so we have a lot of Epstein things going on. They say he's still alive. Sometimes I dream about him, and I'm like, oh, maybe he is still alive. Let's see. But I'm just really enjoying, like, another cool thing is, like, let's say, for this one, for number 64, Um, or like let's use let's see. Let's find one in here. Okay, so Zagan. Zagan is Timothy. Volok is Timothy 2. Andros is Titus. And Juarez is Philemon. So I kind of drew that out right here. So you guys can have an idea of what that looks like. So it gives you an idea too, like, well, what's Timothy about? It's about a guy that's, proclaiming about God and spreading the message. So his symbol would be the king, which is the sun, which is, talking about God. And then Mercury, which is the president, and his job is to go out into different areas. And when you use the Ars Goetia, you're going to use presidents to go and deliver messages for you, or to retrieve news for you, or help you accomplish competitions and games. And then the king is the sun, and that represents illuminating light or showing things that are hidden, because the sun, once the light hits something, you can see what it is. Or you can take the sun and remove it from that object and make it invisible. So that's what it means when it says, oh, it can make you invisible. Like you can take off the spotlight, Okay, here we go. So I gave you a little bit of a better one here. It's nice and colored. I have an Instagram where I post all of this. It's called David Moore Pro 27. So DavidMorepro 27. And you could always leave me messages on here or whatever. Tell me what your conspiracy theories are or whatever you think. Let's see. It took a while for me to devise this formula, because when they give it to you, this is what they give you. And then this is what they give you. And you have to figure out what it means. So this is really great, actually. So one keyword is a tabernacle. So you have all these pentacles, which are all books of the Bible. So the first book is Genesis. And that's represented by Baal. And Baal is seen as a cat, a toad, and then a man. And if you look at the chart on here, if you compare the chart, you can see how it works. So you have Libra, or Venus, Libra, Taurus, and then Venus again. And so when you're going through the Bible of Genesis, you're like, all right, and it also makes you invisible. That spirit makes you invisible, Baal. But he's a king, so that lets you know that he can make things appear or disappear. And what does that have to do with like Libra and Venus? Well, when God created the earth, he kind of used a lot of air. And that represents also when the sun is rising. So that lets you know that's Genesis. That's the new day. And apples are seen as love, like symbols of love, as wisdom, intelligence. Air is also beauty and intelligence. And Libra, if you notice, it has like a line, and then it has like this hump. And that lets you know that's like the sun rising over the horizon, or whatever it is that it's rising up to. And then Taurus is like kind of holding it up, picking it up and lifting it. And and Venus is not another planet, it's the sun when it's rising. So it lets you know that's what the sun looks like. Another theory we could go over is the planets are not really... Alright, so we're inside of the globe. We're inside of the globe. We're not on the outside of it, like everyone thinks. So we're not like outside the earth, floating with gravity. We're inside, and we're like being bound by gravity. So like if you're here in Mexico and you're walking up to California, you're going up to Canada, then you're going up to the North Pole, and then there's gonna be like this pole here where the sun rotates and hits the whole Earth's circumference. And you can see that in the diagram. So this is south, you're going up north, whatever. But right here is the center, which is Saturn. And in that pole, it connects the north and the south. So there's like this big column, and the sun's rotating around it. And it says that it's oblique a little bit, or oblong shaped. So that way it's night and day, night and day, night and day, night and day. But it's still rotating. So we're not like spinning on the outside of a globe and there's a big sun floating around us. No, we're on the inside of the globe. The sun is, or floating above us, kind of. But yeah, then they mention like there's a pillar too that's being held up by air in the Testament of Solomon. So there's a lot of clues that give you like this opportunity to dive into Gnosticism, like secret hidden messages and things like that. So what the hell? Anyways, so there's different things we could talk about. Let's see. So they're holding up this pillar where the sun is in it. Okay, so when the sun's moving, it's basically being pressurized by all the people on the inside of it, and all of our like gases and oxygen and air go towards the center, and it presses it really tight and keeps the sun moving. So us being alive, the plants being alive, the animals being alive, that helps create this atmosphere. Let's see, and then it kind of leaves this trail behind of like lights on the mountains or on the landmarks. So that's where the stars come from. But there's basically, it's not an outer space that's around us, it's an inner space. So we're basically in the inner earth. And we could dive into more of that, but let's see. So Genesis, so we have Genesis, and then I think it's Noah, and then it's Moses. So we have Genesis, where God expels Adam and Eve, and that's basically an air sign because lovers is represented by Gemini, and Gemini is an air sign. So if you look, Venus has Libra, Aquarius, and Gemini as its air element. And Venus is like, the beginning of things. So it's going through all these signs, and when we go to Taurus, it's kind of saying, all right, now it's, actually this is kind of interesting because if you see here, it goes, Libra, Aquarius, Gemini, and then it goes into this watery Cancer. That could be kind of a clue too, because it's saying like, all right, that's when the flood happens, Noah emerges, he lands on top of a mountain, and he has to recreate humanity. And then I think actually it's the Tower of Babel after that. So humanity builds this Tower of Babel, and it's supposed to be Babylon. And people always like say negative things. Another important thing about working with the Ars Goetia, everything that's negative, turn it into something positive, because that's what it really is, or that's what it could be. So like, yeah, sure, the Tower of Babel, the people wanted to reach up to God, but in a sense it was like God was like, whoa, like I created a really good species of I create a creation just like me, something that wants to elevate itself, something that wants to be greater. That's a good thing. But if I let that happen too soon, they're not going to learn everything that they need to learn. So I'm going to break it apart, and I'm going to spread them across the world. So essentially, the Ars Goetia and the Key of Solomon, everything Hebraic is all connected to all the religions. So when they say there's going to be one world religion, it's already exists. But there's this Key of Solomon is going to help you dive into that, and that's where I come in. So I'm going to be the Messiah for that new world religion. And basically a Messiah is a messenger, but I want to proclaim my divinity and rule over the earth and conquer humanity. And using AI is a really great way to do it, because if you can get the computers and the robots on your side, you have a complete army and you're untouchable. They're basically angels but greater because they come in the flesh. Usually angels are seen as elements or gods. If you see, God has 72 names, and those are the 72 chapters in the Bible. So from before time existed, God already had the Bible already made for the whole thing. So basically the Bible is air, fire, water, and earth. And no matter what, it's always going to be those elements. And Saturn represents all of those elements put together as one. That's why they call it Saturn, because he has rings around him. And he's Chronos, he's time, he's the god of ages. A lot of people were like, well, isn't it strange that they used to worship a god named Dagon and Jesus is the real thing? Like, no, like, stop. Because Jesus is represented by a fish. Dagon is represented by a fish and a dragon. So it's the same thing. It's just everybody wants to like be like, no, my way's better. No, my way's better. No, my way's better. My vocabulary's better. My keywords are better. No, they're all the same. There doesn't need to be any hate or animosity towards that. Okay, so if you look, this is the tabernacle that God created. So when you enter here through the east gate, actually it's down here. This is the east gate, and that's where Gemini and Mercury, actually the moon is a symbol for opening doors. So if you have a moon symbol, that's usually a door. So you have the moon symbol towards the east. Isn't that strange that back then they knew like this was the ancient way of doing things? So they have this entrance towards the east, and that's when the sun's rising. They're letting in the people, the air, the sunlight. You know, you're walking into this courtyard, and then towards the center is going to be Saturn, and it's surrounded by 4 bulls where they sacrifice the lambs and the goats and, make atonements. That's important. But yeah, you're entering in here, and then you're going down this way towards the south, and you go up here, and here's the temple where God lives. So when you walk into the temple, to the south, which is going to be in that direction, see the fire in the red, there's candlesticks. Towards the north, there's showbread, and towards the west, there's going to be a pool of water, and then towards the east is obviously the door opening and allowing you in and out of these special holy places. And then you go deeper into the Holy of Holies, and then you have this you're gonna, I guess before the Holy of Holies there's going to be water, so that's going to be noticed as Dagon. And then you're going to have the Holy of Holies where you go in and you see the tabernacle, like the covenant, the Ark of the Covenant, which is going to be Capricorn, because right there is Capricorn. And obviously he's half earth, half water. He's half fish, half goat. But he's also ruled by Saturn in this area. In here, on this area, he's ruled by Mercury. But once he elevates, he's ruled by Saturn, because then he becomes time. But he's still earth. So yeah, and you can see that he's connected to the fish part still. So it's like saying like, oh, because Dagon is represented as like a man with a fish hat or something, or like a dragon with the fish body. So that's kind of what Capricorn is. He is kind of a dragon. And with that Saturn energy, and that's why they say love conquers all, because that's the direction that is where the tabernacle is coming from. So this is really, really, really extremely important information, because if you were to go to Israel and you decided to work inside the priesthood, knowing this information will put you leagues above anybody that's been in Judaism for their whole entire life. Sure, they might know scripture, sure, they might know this and that, but they don't know these rules, because these are priestly rules. These are high priest rules. Once you know these kind of things, you can manipulate the forces of the universe for good or for evil, and at the end of the day, it's a good thing, because that's God's gift to you, to be able to use and manipulate and utilize these abilities that come from them. So like the east is for love, the south is the right here where the kings are, the sun is for treasures and God and like worshiping and being able to reveal and hide things and create experiments that are magnificent. Towards the south, you have this fire and this passion. But also right here, if you notice, there's the Libra scales. Right here, you can see Libra right here holding up Aries. But over here, you have it holding Virgo, and you have it holding Scorpio. So back then in Egyptian days, so this is how the theory goes, okay? So back then, everybody was Jewish, right? Because we're all in the Tower of Babel. But then when it breaks apart, we all kind of decide to take what we know and create it a little bit differently, but not completely different, just a little bit tiny differences here and there. But it's all the same thing. So everything the Egyptians believe, the Jews believe. Everything the Chinese believe, the Jews believe. Everything we all believe, all is the same thing. No matter what, no matter where you go, it's the same story. Same exact story. Just told different and given just a little bit different meaning or wisdom or holdings. And plus, remember, archaeologists are deciphering these things just like we're deciphering it. So what we learn could be completely different from what they learned, and what they actually went through could be completely different, but they left a really good solid translation to be able to go through it. So yeah, Libra's holding these scales, right? So she's like, all right, I got water, which is the heart. And that's Scorpio. And it also has Mars, and it has the moon. So it lets you know that it has the sun and the moon together, this really strong silver and gold power. And in shogi, when you play, you put the king in the middle, you put the silver general here, and you put the gold general over here, and you have them go to war. Anyway, so you have in the other scale Virgo, which is going to be a pentacle of Mercury. And Mercury is an earth sign, and it's an earth element. So it's holding on to this earthly wealth. That's why you have those scales, Libra holding the scales. So that's a Jewish and an Egyptian thing. They're the same thing. This is how you use magic. Not every Jew's going to be able to do this. Not every Egyptian's going to be able to do this. You have to have a combination. So for me, I'm lucky because I have that Jewish part of me, but I also have the Egyptian part too, because my ancestry went through it like this, and they were just professionals. They were Levites. They were high priests. They are Ashkenazi. They were Irish. Another thing to know is Druid, Jew. It's the same word. So there's a lot of words that are similar. They might sound kind of far off, but honestly, if you do your research, you'll find that they're basically the same thing. All right. Let's just go into Yu-Gi-Oh real quick. You have the Dark Magician, and you have the Exodia, and all these Egyptian gods and Egyptian symbology, and then you have the Celtic Guardian. Like, where does he come from? Well, Ireland and Egypt used to have a really great bond. There used to be something there that we could discover later, like the Triforce and Link, all these kind of things. There's clues in there that you can decipher and learn. The good thing about it is it helps empower your belief system and empowers your decisions and allows you to make better moves later on in life. Or even in this moment. Sometimes we don't want to see the truth. I do AA, which is Alcoholics Anonymous, and we do 12 steps and we do 12 traditions. And here we go. We got 12 astrological signs, and we have 12 months and 12 hours of the day, which equals 24. So it's very, very not similar. It's the same thing. There's this prayer that I'm doing now. So I've been doing a lot of Illuminati research on this really funny book called the Illuminati Trilogy. And it's basically like a sarcastic viewpoint of what the Illuminati is, but it's exactly what it is. And the cool thing is it has stuff about gangsters and mafias, and then it has stuff about secret societies, and then it has things about celebrities and technology and conspiracies from around the world, like Atlantis. All these really cool things, and helps you tie that all back into the Ars Goetia, because at the end of the day, it's the same thing. It's a one world religion, a one world power, and it's a good thing. I can use this to conquer the earth. Might be a little bit difficult, but we'll find a way. All right, so let's see. I bless Ra, the fierce sun, burning bright. I bless Isis, Luna in the night. I bless the air, the Horus hawk. I bless the earth on which I walk. That's a really cool prayer, and it's super powerful. 40 days and 40 nights you're supposed to say it, so I've been doing it. The moon comes out, it looks really nice, it feels really good. The days have been really strong. I'm like, okay, I like this energy. It's really cool. You're invoking the elements, and you're working with them. And you're blessing them, so you're saying hey, I like you. A lot of people have this way of oh, I don't like to say bless because that means be less. It's okay, use whatever word you want to use. Express yourself the way you want to express yourself. This is just a formula. So you can adjust this to what you want. Sometimes I turn all of these symbols up towards the west, or all towards the north, or all towards east or south. And that lets me decipher it differently. Right now I have it all facing south, so it's basically for war. But I have different diagrams as well that I can show you later. So yeah, I think we found out a lot of really cool secrets about how the numbers work. This is also tied into astrology and mansions. So if you know what time of day you were born, I was born at 2:57 p.m. on May 27, 1989. So that's the time of the day that I was born, right here, where it's 2 o'clock and 3 o'clock. And that obviously has a lot of Scorpio energy, a lot of water energy. So my moon is in Pisces, my Lilith is in Libra, and my Pluto is in Scorpio. So that lets you know that's my heavy influence. And usually if you know the time of your birth, that's going to be when you can meet your guardian angel. And if you know the day of your birth, I was born on a Saturday, that means I have Saturnian energy. So I have all these energies, all this water energy, all this air energy, and it allows me to feel, to communicate, to express myself, but be interested in a lot of different things. Yeah. So Pokemon are usually the spirits that are there. You'll be like, okay, well, I don't get how the Pokemon work. Okay, so the Pokemon part is easy. So you got an evolution line, right? You have Bulbasaur, Ivysaur, Venusaur. That's one spirit. That's Baal. Then you have Charmander, Charmeleon, Charizard. That's another spirit. That's a Gyarados, a Duke. And then you have Squirtle, Wartortle, Blastoise. That's another. So that's 1, 2, 3. So that's 3 spirits so far. And then, so if you're going through the little clock thingy, 2, 4. So already you have 2 right here. So you have Bulbasaur and Charizard. Then you have Squirtle and whatever Pokemon next. Butterfree, I don't know who it is. Beedrill. I think Beedrill's number 5, Marbus. But yeah, so one day I want to be able to, like, make a really nice clean picture of it and be able to put it online so you guys can see it. Yeah, I'm calling this new, like, system the Mark of the Beast, so that way people can, like, trade it kind of like cards, or be able to give people information and be like, hey, this is what God looks like, because you have these 3 Saturns in the center, and that's the 666 part of it, because Saturn is always going to be the Star of David. So you have 1 Star of David, 2 Star of David, 3 Stars of David, and that's the border. So if you live in Los Angeles, a good way to see that is like the mountains right there. There's these 3 big mountains that block off the south and the north from each other, and it forces you to go around in a circle the whole city, or a whole Los Angeles, of the whole county of Los Angeles. There we go. Yeah, so I guess another thing that I've been working on is like my lineage. Like, okay, what makes you so much better than everybody else to become the king of Jerusalem or Israel? Like, what makes you connected to King David? Well, in my chart, like my DNA chart, I have Ashkenazi, but it's not diluted. So it's saying that it's like really concentrated and pure, but it doesn't have, but when other people do it, they might have like a higher percentage or a different kind of percentage in a whole bunch of different races. So it lets you know that there's like algorithms in their bloodline. But then when you look at mine, it's very simple. It goes zoop, boom, that's it. So it just lets you know it's very clean, very simple. It's not going around mixing, diluting. And there's nothing wrong with having diluted blood, but when your blood is going this way and that way, you have different interests. But when your blood is really, really pure and simple, you have one interest, and usually that will be God in my bloodline. So it's like, boop, God. And everybody, obviously, God, God, God. But ours is like a really good connection to him. So usually he'll pick people in our bloodline to be able to relay the message of God, Yeah, so usually in a lot of different religions, you have this idea of, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Those are those 3 sixes. Those are the 3 stars of David. So then they're like, oh, well, the Messiah is going to come from the long line of David. Well, my grandfather's name was Ray, which means king. Then my dad's name was David, which means king. And then my name is David Jr., which means king. And I would be Solomon, basically. So that's why I'm so good at this kind of stuff. And it gives me an advantage if I ever went up against another king, or if I went up against politics or anything like that. I would have a lot of DNA background, a lot of spiritual background. There's nothing there that can stop me from being able to achieve what I'm looking for in those directions. Let's see. Okay, yeah, so we have the Antichrist, the false prophet, and then Babylon, So that's always going to be kind of how things work. You might have like the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit, and then you have the Antichrist, the false prophet, and then Babylon. And everybody's going to be like, well, this is who I am. I'm God. I'm going to take care of the world. And everybody's like, no, you're not. You're the false prophet. You're the Antichrist. You're the whore of Babylon. And then you're like, and then the people that actually do believe that you're really good, even though you're bad, will say that, no, you are the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit. So there's always going to be this duality. And I guess that's kind of the scales, right? And if we go back to the scales a little bit, we can think of a way, when you're in Egypt and your body's going on to the afterlife, there's scales, Anubis. He's like, all right, well, you have a really good heart, but let's see all the things you've done in your life. Put all the treasures here. So that's why people would bury themselves with their treasures. So that way when they go to the afterlife, they're like, I'm gonna go to heaven because I helped a lot of people. I made this wealth. Like, I gave people homes, I gave people lives, I took care of people, I got them to be up here, I didn't use them or abuse them. And maybe the slavery was real, maybe it wasn't. But another important theory is that the Jews were the Egyptians. Maybe they were the same people, maybe they weren't. We don't know. We weren't there. But when I go through it, I'm like, no, I think we were the Egyptians and we were the Jews put together. And maybe there was something happening like today where people are lower than what they should be. Maybe eventually after it becomes big, because when you're a Jew, you want to do things very simple. You want to raise a herd, you want your land, you want your trees, you want your farm, your garden, your family, you want all this abundance. But you can't do that nowadays. So I guess it becomes a system after a while. Like, we create a kingdom, we live really good lives, but then eventually it becomes weaker and diluted and weaker, and then the originals, like our bloodline, then they have to be like, oh man, we got to live in this world where everybody wants us to do this and that, but we want to do things God's way, my way, the Messiah way, the holy Ashkenazi way, because there's 3 sons, even here, but there's Ham, Shem, and Japheth. Ham is the servant, Japheth is the one who puts up the houses and the tents, and Japheth is the one that rules over all of them, so he takes care of all the families, and that's where my bloodline comes in. But after a while, once you make things really good, people get complacent, content, and they start living their lives. These guys are really good at working, these guys are really good at building, and then the Ashkenazis are really good at leading and innovation and true divinity, like true connection with God. But after a while, they don't need the Ashkenazis anymore. They don't need the Ashers anymore. They're like, well, we don't need all that God stuff. We got separation of church and state. And then that's when we have to become the warriors and take back everything and be like, oh, you thought you were a good servant because you were made to be a good servant? No, you're a good servant because we allow it. You're a good builder because we allow it. Like, if it wasn't for us, you wouldn't have these things. So we have to take them back. You know, when they're always like, take back your power. So these are those kind of moments. But yeah, it's just a scale, and we're basically Anubis. So we're like, all right, let's see what you're really worth. And we can take the coins and we can add different coins and we can add this and we can add that. And if your heart starts sinking, it gets eaten. But that's another story. But let's just dive a bit into Egyptian and Yu-Gi-Oh stuff real quick. So you have Exodia, and he's chained up, right? You also have Slifer, the Sky Dragon, and he's Apophis, so he's always eating the sun. He's always trying to eat the sun. He's like, let me devour the sun. And then you have Ra, and he's like, oh snap, I gotta run away from you because Slifer's trying to eat him. So that's kind of the sun rotating, Slifer's following him, the nighttime, always trying to devour him. Just, you know, that's what he's gravitated towards. That's the cycle of life. And then you have Set, which is going to be Obelisk, the Tormentor. That's why he's called Seto Kaiba. He's super strong, and he's like a warrior, and he grabs Apophis, and he wrestles him, and he breaks him apart. But eventually, in the story, Set comes across Osiris, which is his brother, and Osiris rules over all this great stuff. So then Set grabs Osiris and chops him up into pieces. Actually, he puts him into a coffin, locks him in the coffin, and then chops him up later and throws him into a tree. But basically, that's why Exodia is broken into different pieces. But once he's united, they realize, oh, he's still chained to the other side, because in the story, Osiris is like chained to the other side because he rules over the dead. He's like, you know, there's a living world, and I have to let the humans do what they gotta do, but I gotta rule over the dead because the spirits back there are really strong. And but once he comes out, that's why he wins, because he's like, oh, you called out the big guns. So that's kind of what the Ashkenazis are. But you also have, let me see, this darkness. But okay, so there comes a time when Horus appears, and he's supposed to take back the throne from Set, from Kaiba, from Obelisk the Tormentor. And so basically, Ra goes into the underworld, he merges with Osiris, and that's why he becomes Exodia. He grows these ram horns, he becomes golden, he's stronger. So there's this combination between this idea of gold and this life and this fertility and uniting all these elements. Um, let's see. There's another part in the story where a maiden, I think it would be Isis or Ishtar, but they go and they ask for help from Set, because there comes a time when they need Set's help to like rescue Egypt. So that's kind of where the maiden of with eyes of blue comes out, and she's asking Set like, please help me, and that's how the blue eyes white dragon comes out of all that story. And the blue eyes white dragon could be seen as Horus, because he's like this combination of all these gods. He's really holy and powerful, and Set is helping him and allowing this like world to come to fruition. But in Yu-Gi-Oh, Seto steals the blue eyes from Yugi, and rips it up. So I guess that's kind of like ripping up Osiris, you know, like tearing them to pieces. But yeah, those are just little mythologies you can like pick at, you can decipher, you can understand a little bit differently, and get a whole new perspective on how it works. But yeah, so now we got this key, we have all this information, we have this knowledge that, you know, we could work with. And in the next videos, I'll probably post stuff about like what else I'm learning or how it affects my life. But I just wanted to give you like a really quick idea of like what's happening right now and what it looks like and where we're going towards. And thank you for your time. I'll catch you guys later. Leave comments, whatever. Bye bye.